Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Thanks so much for joining me. My name is Janelle, and today I am going to be reviewing The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock. Also, I am sorry for the lawn mowing noises in the background. I've tried waiting them off. I am pre-recording videos and it's not working. So it's ambiance and the cat has started eating. Chaos. Let's go. So, The Mermaid and Mrs. Hancock by Imogen Hermes Gower. Okay, alright. Story time. So, I got this book last year. I had heard of it online. Then I saw the constantly mentioned Simon from Savage Reads. Loved it. And I just know his recommendations. If he likes it, I'll probably like it. Well, specifically in the historical fiction genre, because there's certain things both of us quite like the same of. Anyway, I saw it online and got it through an exchange and everything last year, and then never picked it up because it was bigger than I expected. And I love big books. I love big books. If I see a big book in a bookstore, I will be drawn to it just to see what it is and what it's about. But I've noticed I'm much more daunted by hardcovers, large hardcovers, than I am large paperbacks. Don't know why. So I didn't pick it up. And then, just by a fluke, last week on a morning, I went to grab a different book, a book I had on my TBR, and I was headed out for the day, and my hand was like, no. And it sang to me, and I grabbed this one. And it was such a good choice. It was such a good decision. It is the book I've been looking for so long, and I didn't know it was this one. I didn't know it was sitting there on my shelves waiting for me. And I'm so happy that I read it. Basically, it's hard to really say much about it without giving things away. Right, bear with me. It's about Mr. Hancock, Mr. Jonah Hancock. He's a merchant. He has grown up, lived and thrives in Deptford. And that's where his life has always been. That's where his family's life has always been. And his captain comes back from a voyage to let him know that he now has a mermaid. And that happens right at the start. So the rest of the book, we are seeing what he chooses to do with this mermaid. And it's not a mermaid in a pretty Ariel Little Mermaid way. It's a mermaid in it looks more like a monster. It's grotesque in appearance. So we see him decide what he wants to do with this. And then we see the domino effect of how that affects his life and what happens to him from there, and just the snowballing that happens. And it's so well done. It's so well done. The atmosphere, the characters are so unique. Genuinely, just making sure I'm right here, I'm pretty positive this book has the most unique characters I've ever come across. Just the ones that stand out. Even the side characters that maybe you don't see that much of or hardly see at all are so well rounded. You know who they are and you know what they're like. There's no blending of them. There's no muddiness to it. It is clear, it is concise, that is them and they are that, and it is just so unique between all the characters. There are some very unlikable characters, but in quite often a very entertaining way. You can't stand this character, but you're really curious to see what they do or say next. And we have multiple protagonists. We have Mr. Hancock. We have another protagonist I don't want to mention too much about, because that kind of goes on with his story. But they're two separate stories, and you start to see their paths cross, and will the lines intersect, and it takes his side from being a merchant in this ship town to being this woman in London. She is a, she's an interesting character. I was honestly not sure for most of the book how I felt about her. Like, I didn't dislike her at all, but I was like, is she good though? And I just was never really sure, because she loved her luxuries. Basically, we see her come back into London society because she'd been kept. She's a prostitute, but she'd been kept by an earl who had passed away. So she's trying to integrate herself back into London and make a name for herself again. And she was kind of one of the most highly sought after, and you kind of see what she's willing to do to have the life she desires for herself, and whether that works in her favor or not. And it's so good. It's very haunting, very gothic. There's a point where it is so sad, and the overall atmosphere is so just heavily depressing. And that's fully intentional. And the characters are feeling it, but the overall atmosphere, it felt like it was seeping out of the book, to the point where I almost felt like I couldn't read anymore, because it was bumming me out quite a bit, because I'll kind of take on whatever emotions my characters are feeling, but as well, it also made me feel like I needed to read faster to get past it and to hopefully see it resolved. It is the book you don't know if there's going to be a happy ending or sad ending or a frustrating ending. You don't know, because it is dark, it's gothic, it's so atmospheric, it's super haunting, so you really don't know if these characters are going to get a good ending or not. But I will say it was a conclusive ending. It didn't leave any strings hanging. It didn't just randomly cut off. You do find out, for good or bad, what overall happens to them. But this one specific, there's a few points, like sad topics are mentioned. There is a generic, mentioned every now and again, talk of bereavement in the form of child loss, mostly. So I will say that. But it was so good. And I did listen along with the audiobook at points, but I actually found I preferred it without the audiobook. The audiobook was great. The voices were fantastic, and there was nothing wrong with the audiobook. I would recommend it. But for whatever reason, I found I was getting a bit more out of it if I just was reading it for myself. But I would recommend the audiobook. There was nothing wrong with it. I think it was really well done. Some have said it's a bit of a dry read or a slow read. I didn't think so at all. I absolutely flew through it. I read it in a day or two. Yeah, a day or two. I flew through it. I took it to the walled garden and read it by the fountain, just as close to the water as I could get, because I love any books that are like haunting and by the water and like gothic and atmospheric, you know, involving the water and mermaids or sirens or something along that line. I love it. So this was so up my alley. I'm so happy I got a book, I read a book that just, it felt so good to read a book that I've just, the vibe, I won't get in the mood for different genres. I'll get in the mood to feel a way. You know, I'll get in the mood for a certain vibe of a book or atmosphere or something which you can't really know before reading it. So it makes it hard to find, and I found one. I'm very, very happy about it. I can definitely see myself rereading this, for sure, for sure. Not right away necessarily, but yeah, definitely. And I'm really hoping the author puts more out. I don't think there's anything else out, but if there is, or if there will be, I will be getting it, and I will be reading it very, very excitedly. So I gave it 5 stars. I really recommend this book. I really, really do. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching. If you want to like, comment, and subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. And I will see you in my next video. Take care. Thanks. Bye.